Artemis 4 hummed with its usual mechanical monotony as I made my way through the narrow corridors. The fluorescent lights flickered occasionally, casting ghostly shadows on the metallic walls. As chief engineer, I'd grown used to the station's quirks, the subtle vibrations that told me something needed adjusting, the whimper of air filters that warned of maintenance needs. "Michael," crackled my comm link, "we've got a visitor at Base 7. They need technical assistance." Another day, another repair. I grabbed my toolkit and headed toward the docking bay, my footsteps echoing against the steel floor. When I arrived, I found her standing there, Zyrene. At least, that's what the station manifest said. She had elongated ears that curved gracefully backward, and her skin held an ethereal luminescence that seemed to shift with her emotions. Her attire was elegant, resembling flowing silk that moved despite the station's controlled atmosphere. "You called for engineering?" I asked, approaching with practiced professionalism. She turned to me, her dark eyes deep as space itself. "Yes, my atmosphere processor is malfunctioning. The oxygen mixture is inadequate for my physiology." I nodded, pulling out my scanner. "Zyrene, right? I'll need to access your ships." The moment I said her name, she froze completely. Her eyes widened, and she took an involuntary step backward. "What did you say?" she whispered. "Your name? Zyrene. It's on the manifest." "No one's ever remembered it," she said, her voice barely audible above the station's ambient noise. That struck me as odd. "What do you mean?" "Your name is right here in the system." Her hands twisted together, a gesture so human yet alien at the same time. "In my culture, names are temporary, given and forgotten by design. When someone enters a new environment, their name dissolves like morning mist." I scratched my head, genuinely puzzled. But why? Efficiency. Unity. When individual identity is fluid, collective harmony is stronger. She paused, studying my face. "You really remembered it?" "Hard to forget. It's beautiful. Sounds like starlight would, if it could speak." For the first time since we'd met, she smiled. It transformed her features, adding warmth to her ethereal beauty. "You humans are strange," she said softly. "Cool me. I'll show you the processor." As I worked on her ship's atmospheric system, we talked. She explained how her people, the Theshan, had evolved a society where individual identity was subordinate to collective purpose. Names were used only in formal documents and forgotten immediately after use. "Doesn't that make things confusing?" I asked, recalibrating her oxygen filters. "Not when everyone accepts it," she replied. "We identify each other by role, by need, by presence. The self dissolves for the greater good." "Sounds lonely." She was quiet for a long moment. "I never thought so before." Over the following weeks, Zyrene returned to the station several times. Each visit brought new technical issues. A sensor array malfunction here, a navigation glitch there. I began to suspect she was finding excuses to return, and honestly, I didn't mind. We'd share stories during repairs. I learned that Theshan society valued collective memory, shared experiences that belonged to everyone and no one. Individual achievements were rarely recorded. Their art, their science, their history all belonged to the whole. "Don't you want to be remembered as yourself?" I asked one day, while troubleshooting her ship's communication array. "The question never occurred to me," she admitted, "until you remember my name." Her visits became the highlight of my routine. The station's endless corridors didn't feel quite so confining when punctuated by her presence. She watched me work, asking questions about human culture that made me see my own species in new ways. "You individualize everything," she observed once. "Your stories, your art, your work, all tagged with personal identity. That's how we know who contributed what, how we honor achievements and learn from mistakes. But doesn't it create barriers? Separation?" I paused, wiping grease from my hands. "Sometimes, but it also creates connections. When I know your name, when I remember you, it's because you matter to me as a person, not just as a job to complete." She considered this, her head tilted slightly. "My people would say you're being possessive. Claiming identity is claiming superiority. Maybe, or maybe it's claiming connection." The philosophical debates became part of our rhythm. I'd fix something, she'd challenge something else, a worldview, a perspective, an assumption. Through her eyes, even my cluttered workbench seemed like a museum of personal identity. Each tool marked with my initials, each project tag with my engineering signature. You sign everything, she noticed one day, pointing to my etch tools. Force of habit prevents misplacing things, or prevents forgetting who they belong to. I laughed. Same difference. Is it? Her tone was serious. Ownership, identity, memory. You humans weave them together so tightly. Our conversations often drifted this way. Her learning about human individualism, me trying to grasp Theshan collectivism. It was during one of these talks that she revealed something troubling. My return authorization expires soon, she said, her luminescence dimming slightly. They expect me back on Thesha Prime. They? The Collective Council. They oversee all cultural exchanges. They'll want my reports on human technology, our diplomatic possibilities, our defense capabilities. I set down my datapad, and they'll want to ensure I haven't been contaminated by individualist thinking. The word hung in the air like a threat. Contaminated? I couldn't hide the bitterness in my voice. That's how they see it. Your way of thinking is considered infectious, dangerous to social harmony. I moved closer, lowering my voice. What happens if they think you have been? Her response was barely a whisper. Reconditioning. They would help me forget everything unnecessary, including your name, especially my name, and everyone who remembers it. The weight of that settled over us like radiation, invisible but deadly. I found myself gripping the edge of my workbench, knuckles white against the metal. That's why you were surprised when I remembered, I said slowly. No one in your culture is supposed to. She nodded. Each interaction is meant to be fresh, unburdened by personal history. We're trained from childhood to let names slip away like water through fingers. But you haven't forgotten mine. Her eyes met mine, holding a complexity of emotions I couldn't fully decode. No, I haven't. The days that followed carried a new tension. Each repair job brought us closer to her departure deadline. We both pretended not to notice the countdown, but it colored every interaction. Teach me about your individualism, she requested one afternoon as I rerouted power through her ship's conduits. What do you want to know? Everything. How you maintain your sense of self. How you remember. How you make memories meaningful. I showed her my journal, pages filled with my own notes, repair logs, observations. We write things down. We create external memories. She traced a finger over my hand-drawn schematics. These are beautiful. They're just technical drawings. No, she insisted. They're personal. Each line shows your decision, your perspective. In Theshan documentation, we use standard symbols, communal formats. This, she gestured at my notes. This is art. You're giving me too much credit. Am I? Or are you so used to individual expression that you don't recognize its uniqueness? That night, unable to sleep, I found myself in the station's observation deck. Stars sprawled across the viewport like scattered diamonds. I wondered which ones belonged to Theshan space, which direction held her home. Commander Hall. A voice interrupted my thoughts. It was Commander Patricia Wong, station administrator. Evening, Commander. She joined me at the window. Your Theshan friend has been here frequently. She requires technical assistance. For weeks. Patricia's tone was gentle but probing. Michael, you know the diplomatic protocols. We can't afford to cause an incident with the Theshans. Their technological trade agreements are valuable. I'm just doing my job. Are you? She sighed. Be careful. Cultural contamination works both ways. And frankly, you've seemed different lately. After she left, I stared at my reflection in the viewport. Different. Maybe I was. Talking with Zyrene, seeing through her eyes, had shifted something in my perspective. The station felt smaller now, but also fuller, charged with possibility and meaning I'd overlooked before. Over the next few days, I noticed changes in Zyrene too. She began hesitating when introducing herself to others, as if her own name felt foreign. She started keeping notes, small, secret recordings on a crystalline data storage device. Following your example, She explained when I caught her recording our conversation. Why? Because when I return, when they make me forget, I want evidence that this happened, that you existed, that I was myself. The gravity of her words hit me like solar flare. Zyrene, you can't go back. I must. My people depend on our cultural exchanges. If I refuse, it will damage their relations with humans. Damned relations. I slammed my fist on console. Your people are trying to erase who you are. Who am I? She asked, genuinely lost. I grabbed her hands, the first time we touched. Her skin was warm, slightly textured like fine sandpaper. You're Zyrene. You're brilliant and curious. You're someone who makes me look forward to equipment. Failures. You're you. Her luminescence shifted to deeper hues I'd never seen before. In Theshan culture, you is a dangerous concept. Maybe your culture is wrong. The words hung between us like a gravitational field, pulling and pushing simultaneously. She withdrew her hands slowly. I need time to think, she said, and left me alone with the ghosts of our conversation. 2 days passed before she returned. When she did, she brought others, 2 Theshans in formal diplomatic attire. They radiated authority and looked at our station like scientists studying a particularly contaminated petri dish. Engineer, the taller one addressed me formally. We are here to escort our colleague back to Thesha Prime. She has completed her assessment period. Zyrene stood between us, her posture rigid. Her eyes met mine briefly, a storm of conflict swirling in their depths. Perhaps she'd like to complete her current projects first, I suggested, trying to buy time. All necessary technical knowledge has been transmitted to our databases, the second diplomat stated. Her personal observations are no longer required. Personal observations. The way they said it made my skin crawl. What does she want to stay? The words burst from me before I could stop them. Both Theshans turned their full attention to me. Their luminescence darkened to nearly black. That would be unfortunate, the taller one said. It would suggest cultural contamination has occurred. Such individuals are dangerous to societal stability. And what happens to them? Their return to harmony with the collective. Through force. His smile was thin and cold. Through understanding their duty to the greater good. I looked at Zyrene. She hadn't spoken since they'd arrived, hadn't moved except for that one glance. Zyrene, I said directly, what do you want? The Theshan stiffened. Using her name so deliberately was likely a cultural transgression, but I didn't care anymore. She raised her eyes to mine. For a moment, I saw the person she'd become. Curious, conflicted, awakened to possibilities beyond her original understanding. Then, like a star dying, her luminescence dimmed, and she dropped her gaze. I must fulfill my obligations to Thesha Prime, she said in a monotone I'd never heard from her before. The taller diplomat nodded approvingly. Excellent. We depart within the hour. Please gather any essential technical equipment. As they turned to leave, Zyrene paused. Without looking back, she said, thank you for your assistance, engineer. No name, no personal connection, just a formal acknowledgement of professional service. It cut deeper than any blade could have. After they left, I stood alone in the docking bay for what felt like hours. Commander Wong found me there, staring at the empty space where Zyrene's ship had been. I'm sorry, Michael, she said softly. She gave up, I said bitterly. Just accepted it. People do what they believe is right, even when it costs them personally. Especially then. I thought about that over the following days. The station returned to its previous rhythm. Repairs, maintenance, the endless cycle of keeping humanity's outpost functioning. But nothing felt the same. Then, 3 days after her departure, something extraordinary happened. I was working late in my quarters when my personal terminal chimed. The message was marked as originating from deep space, encoded with civilian cryptography anyone could crack, but official channels would rarely monitor. When I decoded it, I found a single line, identity persists in memory. The sender's signature was a series of symbols that, when translated from Theshan script, spelled out Zrene. My hands trembled as I composed a reply. Memory creates identity. For months, these messages continued. Brief, cryptic, always focused on concepts of self and remembrance. She was fighting it, I realized. Fighting the erasure. Maintaining her sense of self through our connection. Then, nearly 6 months after her departure, a longer message arrived. They cannot make me forget what I choose to remember. Tonight, I leave Thesha Prime. Do not trust official channels to warn you. Some resistance movements have infiltrated the diplomatic corps. I am no longer welcome here because I insist on remembering. Because I insist on being remembered. We'll explain more when safe. Until then, remember that I am still me. Still Zyrene. I immediately went to Commander Wong. We might have a situation. What kind of situation? The diplomatic kind. The kind that could result in a Theshan refugee requesting asylum at our station. Her eyes narrowed. Michael, what have you done? I've been myself. And she's learned to be herself, too. Wong sighed deeply. You're going to get us all in trouble. Probably. 2 weeks later, scanners detected an incoming ship, unscheduled, broadcasting emergency codes. It was Zyrene's original crafts. Hull scorched and systems failing. When she emerged through the airlock, she collapsed into my arms, her luminescence so dim I thought she might be dying. I tried to forget, she whispered as I carried her to medical. They used every technique, but every time they stripped away my sense of self, there was your face calling me by name. A name becomes a fortress when someone else remembers it. As station medics worked on her, she gripped my hand. I am defecting, not just from Thesha Prime, but from everything that says I can't be myself. You'll have to apply for asylum, I told her. It won't be easy. Nothing worth having is easy. Her smile was weak, but genuine. I brought something. She produced her crystalline storage device. Months of recordings, thoughts, observations, proof that individual identity can coexist with community. That remembering names doesn't destroy harmony. It enhances it. The Theshans won't see it that way. No, but maybe some will. She squeezed my hand. I met others who think like I do now. Quietly, secretly. They asked me to carry their stories too. Your culture of remembrance. It's spreading. Over the following months, the situation grew complex. Theshan diplomats demanded Zyrene's return. They cited cultural protocols, threatened to void technical exchange agreements. But Zyrene had prepared well. Her recordings weren't just personal. They documented Theshan technological specifications that made her a valuable asset to human space. They can't erase me without losing their intellectual property, she explained during one of our many debriefings. I've created a paradox in their own system. Eventually, the Theshans offered a compromise. Zyrene could remain in human space as a permanent cultural liaison, but she must submit to regular cultural purity evaluations. No, she stated firmly. I am Zyrene. I remember myself, and I am remembered. Those are my terms. The standoff lasted weeks. But then, something unexpected happened. 3 more Theshans arrived, not diplomats, but refugees. They had, they claimed, been inspired by Zyrene's broadcast before she left Thesha Prime. We want to stay ourselves too, their leader, who asked to be called Nexon, explained. We want to keep our names. The trickle became a stream. Soon, Artemis 4 had a small Theshan community, each member choosing to remember and be remembered. The diplomatic situation evolved from crisis to cultural exchange of a different sort. Zyrene and I grew closer during this time. Our connection, forged through our early philosophical debates and strengthened by her fight for identity, deepened into something neither culture had words for. Love in Theshan culture is collective, she explained one night as we watched stars from the observation deck. We love as a society, not as individuals. And now, she leaned into me, her warmth seeping through my uniform. Now I understand why you humans cherish individual bonds. When someone knows your name, remembers your fears and dreams, sees you as unique, that's worth preserving. The question is, I mused, did remembering your name change me, or change you? Both, she said simply. Memories are like particles of light. They change when observed, and they change the observer. 6 months after her defection, the Theshan government finally recognized a new diplomatic protocol, official acknowledgement of individual cultural explorers who choose to integrate with other species naming conventions. It wasn't full acceptance, but it was a start. Zyrene now serves as a bridge between our cultures, teaching humans about collective harmony while helping Thessians understand individual identity. Our relationship has become something unique, a quantum state where personal and cultural boundaries shift and blend. Sometimes in quiet moments, I wonder what my life would have been like if I just fixed her atmosphere processor that first day and never said her name. Will we both still be trapped in our respective cultures' expectations? Do you regret it? Zyrene asked me once, after particularly tense negotiations with both our peoples. Regret knowing you? Never. Even with all the complications? I pulled her close. A name isn't just a sound. It's a promise to see someone truly, to remember them beyond convenience or protocol. When I said, Zyrene, that first day, I promised to see you. And in seeing you, I found parts of myself I didn't know existed. Today, as I write this in my journal, a habit I've maintained despite, or perhaps because of our culture clash, I realize that names are indeed powerful magic. They're anchors in the cosmic ocean, ways to hold onto meaning in an infinite universe. Zyrene is teaching other Thessian refugees the power of identity. I'm learning to see beyond the individual to understand collective harmony. Together, we're creating something new, a culture that values both the self and the whole. The station alarm sounds. Another repair needed somewhere. Zyrene looks up from her reading, her luminescence brightening with amusement. Duty calls, engineer. Always does. Care to assist? Always, she says, using my name like a caress. As we walk the station's corridors together, I realize that remembering isn't just about the past. It's about creating the future. Every time I say her name, every time she uses mine, we're choosing to exist as ourselves, together, in defiance of any system that says we must forget to belong. Behind us, our footsteps echo differently now. Not the lonely sound of one person maintaining machines, but the harmonious rhythm of two beings who chose to remember each other in a universe that often demands we forget. The stars wheel above us, silent and infinite. And somewhere in their light, I'd like to think the universe itself remembers every name ever spoken in love.